So your students finished taking the ISIP. Now what? This is part 2 of the iStation PD video series. So the great news is that now you have data. This video is going to help you learn how to retrieve that data and give you some ideas of how you might use it. So just a reminder, this is how you log into iStation. You're going to go to the district homepage, click on resources, and then click on the iStation logo. Once you get into iStation, you're going to want to navigate to the Classroom tab. The Classroom tab is going to give you a lot of information regarding your students. The first thing is you're going to notice that your individual student assessment information is housed here. Keep in mind this is a live page, so when students are assessing remotely, if you have your Classroom tab open on your computer, you will start to see that this column here will start to populate. Once students finish the assessment, it will mark it as complete and color code it for you so you can see at a glance how your students performed. You'll also notice that from the Classroom tab, there is a box to the left of student names that has related reports. You'll notice that they're listed in blue font, which lets you know that they're a hyperlink to get to those reports. Something that's important to remember is that when you're looking at student progress or your data, you want to make sure that you have the right product listed. So for example, you can see that iStation is highlighted in blue. This tells me that this page on my Classroom tab, I am looking at data for iStation Reading. If you want to look at math data, you'll need to click on iStation Math. If you're a dual immersion teacher, you may have additional tabs for the Spanish content in iStation. A new feature that iStation has added, since we now have multiple subject areas, is this one right here. Simply by clicking this box, you can see multiple products on one page, so you'll be able to view your iStation Reading and iStation Math data on one page. So let's look a little closer at the reports that are available from the Classroom tab. You'll notice again, here it is a little bit larger. Under related reports, you'll see the ones that are available for reading and for math. And again, these are hyperlinks that you simply click on to get to the next report. We're going to look a little closer at the Classroom Summary Report and the Priority Report. Let's start with the Classroom Summary Report. Here's why I think you might like it. This report will help you group your students by a guided reading level. It'll also give you a Lexile level that you can share with parents, or you can help students use that Lexile leveling to pick independent books to read. It'll also give you information on what the students are working on in iStation. So once your students complete the ISIP, they'll automatically be dropped into a learning pathway or a cycle of instruction. This report will tell you which cycle your students are working in, and you can look up to see what does that cycle entail. What skills are your students working on? Additionally, if you want to drill down further, you can click on a student's name and get to the student summary report. We'll look at that one later. So just a reminder, to get to the Classroom Summary Report, it's available on your Classroom tab simply by clicking Classroom Summary under Related Reports on the left-hand side. Here's what this report looks like. So you'll notice right away that some of your students will be listed as critical intervention. This means that iStation has determined that these students need extra support. Typically, you'll notice that students who are defined as needing critical intervention are students that are typically found in your Tier 3, although sometimes they can be also found in your Tier 2. So right away, you'll notice that this report will sort your students or your class who've assessed by the different tiers. And it utilizes the overall reading score to do this, which means that in K3, it covers spelling, vocabulary, and reading comprehension. For grades 4 through 8, this will encompass word analysis, vocabulary, and reading comprehension. There are some other headings that are available on this report that we're going to look at a little more closely. So you'll have that overall score for each of your students. You'll also have the percentile rank, the Lexile level, the usage in hours, and the current cycle. You'll notice that under current cycle, there is a little drop down. If you click on this, it'll actually sort your data by the cycle level that your students are working in. So let's look at those headers just a little bit more closely. The percentile rank, it'll be important for you to know that these are in relation to the national norms. This means that other students who are utilizing iStation, who are in the same grade level, taking this assessment in the same month, how they perform. And this percentile ranking will use that information. So it's not just based on your class or your school. This is national information. The usage data is just that. It'll tell you how long did your students take to take that most recent ISIP assessment. Let's talk a little bit about Lexile scoring. Lexile scoring can be complicated. So I did include some additional resources at the bottom here if you'd like to click on that to get more information. But in a nutshell, Lexile scores are quantitative measures. They range from 200 to 1700. They measure a student's reading ability, but teachers sometimes use Lexile leveling to measure how difficult a text can be to determine if they want to use it for instruction. So Lexile scoring does factor in things such like sentence length, word fluency. It's kind of a little more numeric in those values because it doesn't take into consideration the theme of the text or the content. So this measure is objective, which makes it a little tricky for some teachers. So just keep that in mind as you approach the Lexile leveling. It is a great way, though, to get a start on what a student's reading ability might be. Just keep in mind that it's not going to cover those high-level complex comprehension pieces such as theme and content. Now let's talk about the current cycle. So again, the classroom summary report is going to tell you what cycle your students are working in. It'll just give you the number. So for you to figure out what does that number mean, you're actually going to go to a new tab. So if you go right to the right of your classroom tab, you'll be in the toolbox tab. This toolbox tab has a menu of options. You'll want to select cycle and unit descriptions. The cycle and unit descriptions menu will prompt this box here. And remember, anything in blue is probably what you want to click in iStation to get additional information. So in this case, it's going to allow you to click on iStation's user's guide to get the information on the cycles of instruction. Once you open the iStation user's guide, or IUG, then you select the product that you want to look at. So in this case, we're doing a reading example. So you would click on iStation Reading. And then you'll see it'll populate all of the cycles that are available. Now in iStation Reading for elementary, there are 15 cycles. So this gives you an example of what the students are working on. If it says that students scored whatever the value is for their ISIP, then it shows you which cycle they're working in. If students were working on a cycle 1, for example, this will tell you that when they log into the iStation reading program after their assessment is over, these are the skills and concepts that they are working on. So you can use this to help you see what the progression is. It might help you to plan for small groups and to be able to share with parents what is it that your students are working on when they're logging into the iStation program each day. Now, if students work their way through all of the 15 cycles that are available, then they're placed in the middle school Timeless Tales track, which actually begins at 6th grade material and goes up to 8th grade material. It'll show up on your cycle list as TT1 or TT2 for Timeless Tales Track 1 and Timeless Tales Track 2. So let's look at the reading level guide. This is something that I really value about the iStation data. So I just have to share this with you. The great news is that it's also available in your toolbox tab. This will help you to create reading groups based on guided reading levels. So in the toolbox tab, this time you would click the reading level guide. This is what this reading level guide looks like. You'll notice for dual immersion students or teachers, there's also a tab for Spanish. The Espanol tab is right next to the English. So you have this similar report available to you. Something important to note is that if you are a kindergarten through 3rd grade teacher, you're going to want to make sure that you're looking at the column that says early reading. If you are a 4th through 8th grade teacher, you need to be sure you're looking at the advanced reading column to use this report. So what you would do is you would look at your student's ISIP score, that overall reading score, and then you would match it to the guided reading level to the right using this chart. We'll look at an example. So here's an example of students and their ISIP overall index score from that classroom summary report. I just made this column a little larger. Because this was a 4th through 8th grade class, I need to look at the advanced reading column. So let's look at an example. If I took this score, this ISIP overall score of 1781, then I would look at my chart under the advanced reading column and I would align it. And I can see it says 1653 to 1785. So this tells me this student almost passed that range of scoring. So when I go across to look at the guided reading level, I probably would put them probably closer to a level O, but I might want to start with level N. So this is how you can drill down to place students in guided reading level groups. Let's look at another example. This student scored 1958. So when I go across, this student will fall in the band of 1922 to 1993. Now, 1958 is kind of in the middle of that band of numbers, so I'd probably place this student in the middle of what I see here for the available reading levels. I could probably go up to level U as well, but I might want to start at level T. So it'll give you a guide, a range of where you might start in determining which reading levels your students might be at. Let's look at the priority report next. So what's this report good for? This report will help you group students by skill area, and it'll also provide you with some optional resources that you might want to use for instruction. And again, just a reminder, you can get to this report directly from your Classroom tab simply by clicking Priority Report under the Related Reports box on the left-hand side. So here's what it looks like. This report will show you groups of students that have different needs. So we'll look at that a little larger. It'll also tell you which students have excessive logouts or idle time. This means students are logging out during the assessment or they're simply taking too long to answer questions. So it'll always start with that. Then it'll give you a breakdown by the reading subtest area. So for example, this is again an upper grade example. So it will start with reading comprehension. Then you'll have another section for vocabulary and for word analysis and text fluency. Let's look at this box a little larger. So you can see it'll give you a breakdown. And again, everything in iStation that shows up in this blue font is a hyperlink. So if there was an area or a group of students that I wanted to look at more closely, you would simply click it. So in this case, I clicked on the text fluency band. Here I can see a list of students who might need some support there. But what I also notice is that at the top, there are some resources available for me. When I click on resource details that's highlighted in blue, it'll populate some ideas of some resources I might want to use. It'll sort them by grade level. It usually starts about 2 grade levels below, and it'll go up to 3 or 4 grade levels above. And you'll see there's a lot of resources to choose from. And again, these are optional because iStation will automatically put your students into their cycle of instruction based on their ISIP score. So there's nothing teachers need to do to plan instruction additionally. So this is just an example. If I were to click on one of those resources, it'll give me some options. I can view the resource. I can download it, which will allow you, by the way, to save it to your documents or on your computer, or you can add it to your library. iStation does have a library where you can house your favorite resources to utilize again. It also does, so this is if you were to view it. I'm sorry, it'll give you all the pages you need, by the way, for instruction. This is kind of a cool thing too if you have a substitute or if you have someone who's supporting you that you want them to run a small group to support your students. It has everything of how the lesson should roll out. All of the materials are included. And it also has this feature that just reminds me of Amazon. So it'll say educators who downloaded this resource also downloaded. So it'll prompt that for you as well. So again, those are optional resources if you don't have to use them. So let's look at one of my absolute favorite reports in iStation, the Student Summary Handout Report. So this one to me is really great because it provides parents information on how students are performing. Great for teachers as well, but I think this is a great one for parents. It also comes in English and Spanish. So if you have an IEP meeting coming up or an SST meeting, you can print this report for the whole class or for selected students. It'll show you progress over time as well. So you'll have all the monthly data from when students assessed on one report. It's also color coded, which makes it easy to read. Now this report, you can get there from a new tab. So we haven't looked in the report tab yet. So this is our first opportunity to look at report tab. So from the report tab, when you open it, this is what it looks like. And you'll see a whole bunch of report options for you there that you're welcome to dig into and look at. But this is the one that I'm referencing, the Student Summary Handout Report. And you'll notice when you click on it, it'll prompt this box and it will tell you in red, customize before running this report. So you'll need to click the Customize Report button right here. Once you customize, it'll populate this box. So because I have a district license for iStation, I have to drill down even further. Yours will show up with your teacher name and your students on the right-hand side. For me, I have to select a school and then a teacher and then the list of students. This will be more closely what yours would look like. You'll have your school listed, you'll have your classroom listed, and then you'll have your students listed. So like I said, you can select all of your students to receive this report or a selected few. That'll be helpful also when you want to print this report in Spanish, which I'll show you in a little bit, because maybe you have some in English and some in Spanish. What's nice about this report as well is it prints nicely on one sheet for each student. So here's an example of what it looks like. Your student report will not have this box here because this is an example from iStation. So this one here gives a breakdown of how to read it or what those things mean on this report. But you'll notice each of these boxes, this is the overall reading score that we use for the ISIP score. And then these are the areas that students assess in: text fluency, which is not part of the overall reading score, but then the other three: comprehension, vocabulary, and spelling. So this is a primary example of a report because I see spelling here instead of word analysis. But this will give parents a breakdown of each of those areas. And these little yellow dots, I'll show those to you a little bit larger. These little yellow dots over here will show progress over time. This blue line is a trajectory line, which helps parents to see, are students making progress? So this is saying if students were to continue taking the ISIP, this is likely where they're headed, which is nice for parents to see. So even though there was a dip here, students made gains here, which improved their trajectory line. And it's broken down by month. So here you can see this is September to March. This is the September, October, November, December, just like that. So it goes in order by month. So by October, your students will have a couple of yellow dots, so parents can see right away if students have made progress, because October is when our parent conference window is. Another great thing for this report to share with parents at conference time or anytime is it will give them the Lexile student measure. So that will show up on the top right-hand corner. Now, when you're on your computer viewing this report, it will show up in blue, which means you can click it and get information about text that is at that Lexile level to share with parents of what students might want to use for their independent reading, or just share the number with parents and they can help students select text. Now, the other great thing about this report when you're viewing it on your computer is if you click the actual box right there, the colored box, you can drill down and get more information. So once you click on the box, it's going to populate a new screen where you can keep clicking anything in blue, and in this case, the plus next to whatever month you want to look at data, and you'll get more information. Here is what I'm talking about more information. So this is an example from one student. It will show me all of the breakdown of the scores for the different areas of subtests that the student assessed. It'll also tell me the questions and answer options. So it'll say what the choices were, what the student responded with, what score, and how long did they take to answer. So this is great for any students that you're kind of questioning the results. You might want to dig a little deeper. For most of your students, what we found is that teachers have reported it's pretty spot on with what they were able to see students being able to do in the classroom. But there's always that handful of a few students that Sometimes they don't perform the same way when they're taking an assessment online. So this will give you some additional information to help you drill down further. So now that same report, what if you want it in Spanish? Once you go in, the first thing it'll prompt you to is that targeted users box that we looked at in the beginning where you can select your students. You'll just want to click the box to the left of that says options. And then all you need to do is select which language you want and hit run report. And you'll see that same report, but in Spanish for your parents. So now I'm done with this segment, but what's next? The next iStation PD video will be on the additional tools that iStation has. So we'll be able to look at some of the reading resources and how to make assignments in iStation if you'd like to use that. Again, those features are optional, but wanted to share what's coming next. Thank you.